Well, hello, everybody. I'm going to see if I can get Stephanie into this here.
Hello.
You do realize that you're not on camera, right?
Right this second, I realized that, and I'm not sure why.
See,
Because it's giving me the option to stop my camera.
Well, go ahead and try to stop it and then start it again and see if it does something. You there?
Yeah,
You sound disappointed.
I am a little bit.
This is hilarious. You want to click around a little bit and I can just do some chattering?
I can try. Yeah, I'm gonna try, there's like a little help thing at the bottom. I'll try that.
Okay, you do that. I'm
Okay.
going to do a little bit of chatter here. So I'm Heather Hart. I'm actually the owner of a compassionate heart massage therapy. I am starting this little podcast, whatever you want to call it, and I'm calling it Erie Wellness Connect. The reason I've decided to do this is because we have so many fantastic wellness practitioners here in Erie. And I feel like we're all scattered and not connected. And I wanted to find a way to get us out here just in a little bit. Oh, there you are. A little bit, but you're a little shadowy.
Yeah.
There it is.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. So I'm going to click on, so I have a lot of things I'm still kind of figuring out. All right, there we go. So I wanted to do this in a way to bring all of us wellness practitioners together to be able to have conversations that we aren't able to have maybe with other people, or even to just be able to speak about ourselves and what we're doing at the moment, because sometimes we need to do that, right? Because we get scattered and sometimes we don't even know what we're doing, right? So it's nice to talk about who we are, what we're trying to do, so that we can establish that and move forward from there. So one of my first guests here is Stephanie Sawtelle. She was at the top of my mind when I first thought about doing this, because I absolutely love and adore her. So Stephanie, I wanted to, so I messaged my friend Missy this morning because I wanted to bring up, first off, how we first connected. Do you remember how we first connected?
I remember you coming to the barn for some horse time and horse lessons. Is that your same memory of when we met?
Yes, but it was through this girl, Vicky. Do you remember Vicky?
Yes.
Yes, remember? So she, me and her were starting our massage therapy businesses at the same time. She was working at Dr. Sanders, and then we had Missy Monticello. We were all mutual friends, kind of. And I don't know what it was, but I had said something about I was on my kick of doing new things in my 30s. And I'm like, I want to do horseback riding. And she was like, let me hook you up with Stephanie. So I think that's how that all started.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So back then, that was, I think, probably 13-ish years ago, 2010.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that nuts?
It's crazy.
We've grown up so much.
Yeah, lots has changed.
So, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to see in any type of, and I consider what we do an art form. There's art and science to a lot of what types of things that we do for healing. And, you know, you started off with horses, the horseback riding, and, you know, just what you do with horses. How did you evolve? Tell us a little bit of your background, where you started, how you got to where you're at and where you're at now.
Okay. So it started off kind of when I met you, just right out of college, doing the really traditional horseback riding lessons and horse training. And I did that for a lot of years, put a lot of hours in with all of that. And as I was doing that, I started realizing other layers of things that were happening between the horses and the people that were coming out to spend time with them, whether it be, riding or grooming or just hanging out at the barn. And I had some people who were getting very, very impacted by their time with the horses in a way other than just learning how to ride. And often they would share that with me when they would come to the barn. And they'd end up talking about their parts of their lives outside of the barn, their relationships, things like that. And I started putting all these pieces together just on my own about what gifts the horses were giving to them outside of strictly learning how to horseback ride. And the more I saw this, the more I was interested in it. And I just kept putting pieces together. And at some point, I did a little bit of research and realized that obviously, I wasn't the only one experiencing this. And it was actually a new field of study: equine assisted learning, equine assisted psychotherapy. And so I went and looked into some certifications in that field and got a couple of certifications through the years. So this was over the course of a lot of years that I kind of made this happen. And then I started, as I was learning about that and getting those certifications, I started making this gradual transition to what I'm doing now, which is basically strictly that type of work. So I'm doing almost none of the horseback riding and horse training that I was doing before. I still do some horse behavior consultation, but I'm not doing any of the, public riding lessons and things like that. So it's just been this gradual transition into something that just right now it just suits me really, really well, and it's fascinating. I mean, I just love I always loved teaching people to ride. I loved the horse behavior and the horse training, and I was, pretty successful with all of that. But this just has other layers to it that just endlessly fascinate me, and it's never old, or at least it hasn't gotten old yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when we worked together, I remember I did a lot of because I did a lot of blathering about my business. We talked a lot about business and how hard it was. And I know coming there and even just grooming the horse and spending time with the horse. There were a few times that I came and I didn't even want to ride. I just wanted to touch the horse and be with the horse. It allowed me to break away from what was happening in my life,
Right.
So, and then I remember we did a few sessions together with the horse in the pen, and it's so interesting to be able to connect with something in a way, in a communication style where it's not verbal, right? And it's not even necessarily, so even for not you might be able to read the horse's body and know what's going on, but I don't necessarily know that, but yet I'm feeling things from the horse as well, right? Or your clients are. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So horses are nonverbal communicators. They also have this really amazing ability to read our intentions and our energetic state and our emotional state. And they're sensing all of that when we're in their presence, and they're reacting and responding according to how we're showing up or the client is showing up when we're in the space with them. And it's a very sensory experience. I think it's an experience that invites us into a way of being that we don't normally spend time in, if that makes sense, because
Mhm.
as humans, we're so in our head all the time. And
Yep.
the horses are very, there's a feeling to them with the power and the beauty and their size. They help you stay present. Um,
Well,
there's the really amazing
you
things
kind of
about
have to along a big with a big
you
animal
do.
like that.
You do, and if you're not, they'll tell you that you're not present by they may disconnect or just act aloof, or they may actually do something that helps bring you into the present moment, like a little nudge or a close call when they come past you and you
Right.
weren't being aware. So it's just this really amazing sensory opportunity spending time with them, and a way to, I guess, develop awareness of yourself because of how they respond to you. And I think that's where someone like me comes in, who's a trained facilitator, who can certainly, any of this can be discovered on your own if you spend enough time with horses and don't have anybody else with you. But I think a trained facilitator just helps point things out and bring things to your awareness, and tell you, when the horse does this, it means this, or did you notice the horse is doing that, and kind of help speed the process along of understanding what's going on in the dynamic between horse and human.
What would you say, or So if people out there are listening, and there are a couple people,
Okay.
um, what kind of client, or so I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm saying, well, what would I use this for? Or what kind of issues am I having that would say, you know what, this might be good for me to explore a little bit more. This could be helpful in what issues would you say that people would be having that this would be good for?
Okay, so this really can be a wide variety of things, but I will start somewhere and go from there.
Okay.
um, so the horses can help. I would say a really good fit is someone who is, there's a couple different directions I can go. Someone who's just really feeling stuck and maybe wants a new way of moving through a challenge or something going on in their life that, you know, they haven't found anything that works yet and they're looking for something different. This is really a different thing. It's an experience. You're outside, you're with the animals, you're with nature. There's weather, there's you know, there's moving. It's not like sitting and talking. It's not sitting and writing in a journal. It's a very dynamic and very active and very sensory thing. So it's very different. I would say someone who feels stuck and is looking for something different because they're stuck, or even because um, they just really like novel things. You know, maybe they just like something different and they're pulled to nature. And somebody who's not afraid to sort of do something a little outside of the box and see how it goes. You know, I think I get kind of one of those two people tend to make their way my way.
I like the way you put that. I love the dynamic and the sensory that you mentioned about that. And yeah, feeling stuck, you know, you're feeling stuck in a job or maybe in a relationship, or just that feeling of waking up in the morning and I don't, same things, you know.
Yeah.
Our lives are ever changing, so those plateau moments in our lives, I believe are meant to be there for us to take a good look at ourselves to see what's next, right?
I totally agree.
So something like this, right? Because sometimes we don't always know, we can't figure out on our own what's next. You need support, you need community, you need tools to help get you to that next level, right?
Yeah.
So something like this, and if you've tried other things in the past and you want to try something new or different, you love animals, you've always been curious about horses, you've had some curiosity about energy or even um, body language, different things like that, I think would be a good candidate, you know, for somebody to give this a try. Yeah.
Yeah. And the really cool thing is, no, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to bring in the divination tools, but you go first.
Yeah, okay, we'll get to that. So I was going to say that the really cool thing about the stuff that I do with the horses is that the horses and I can meet anybody at whatever level they want to be met at. So if someone's just really there and they really want to, I don't even have to ask them. It just sort of unfolds how it unfolds when they're with the horses. And so if they're there really thinking about, you know, how am I showing up with my body language and what does that tell me about myself? We can really stay on that physical level. If they're there and they want to open up about some emotions they've been experiencing, the horses will reflect that back to them as well. If they come in and they want to talk about and energetics and a lot of woo-woo stuff, we can totally go there too. So I
Mhm.
think that's really one of the things that I love is every time a new person comes out to do something with the horses, I don't know how it's going to unfold. It's really, that's one of the things that I love about it is it's surprising to me, and it's one of those things where almost like the more open I stay and the less I try to structure it, the
Right.
better it is, because it's more pure based on what the client is bringing in, and whatever level that they're comfortable staying at is totally fine, and they'll get plenty out of it, and the horses will meet them there and I can meet them there. And that may change over time. You know, it's not uncommon to show up for a new thing with a bit of your guard up. I mean, that's totally normal, and often that's very healthy.
Right.
So if that changes from session to session, the horses will continue to evolve with how they're showing up and what they're open to receiving from the experience.
Awesome. Oh, I love
Hmm.
all of that. Now I want to sign up for another one because
You're
I
welcome
do.
to come out anytime.
Because I do have a lot of crap going on this year. So, um, so where are you at now? Tell me about where you're at, your facility, or what you have going on, because and again, this is part of the reason why I'm doing this, is because I believe the pandemic scattered all of us. And I don't know where anybody's at anymore. So tell me where you're at and what do you have going on? And there's a couple of different names that you're floating around. I've got the Holy Horse Witch. There's that FarmASea. I'm not quite sure where you're at right now. So tell me a little bit more about that and where you're at and stuff.
Okay, so clearly I'm a bit in flux, which is fine. So right now I'm living on a small farm in Edinburgh.
Okay.
And I do like to call it my FarmASea, which farm like a horse farm, and sea like SEA, because I just really love the water and the ocean and things like that. I feel like it kind of pays a bit of respect to both places that I love and both places that really speak to me as, places where I find healing.
That's right,
So I
because
love,
you do the sailing and stuff too with friends, right?
yes. I really
Okay.
love being on the water, like sailing, paddleboarding, swimming, any of it. Freshwater, saltwater, creek, stream, lake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm out in Edinburgh. I'm on a small farm. I've been here a little over a year, and it's been really fun to set everything up with the type of work that I do in mind. So this is the first place I've been where I'm doing this full time, and I have, uh, you know, I can do this however I want. I can set up the whole place however I want. I'm not renting it. I'm not showing up at someone else's farm to do the work. The whole place is mine to do with as I want. And that's been really, really fun to to arrange everything for the horses, for the guests that I know are coming. I do have a few areas where the horses stay. I have a couple of big pastures with grass, and I also have a big gravel area where the horses stay when the weather is not great. And the nice thing about that is that it's not muddy, so I can have people out all year, and it might be cold, but it's not going to be mud. Um, and then I also have a barn where we can go inside. I have a small, one of those like little houses. We have like a little shed, and it's got some furniture in it and a little porch. And often I have that decorated in there. And oftentimes, if I have a person or a group, we'll meet out there first. And especially if it's cold, I'll put the little heater on, and we'll meet out there and then go out to the horses, and we can kind of go back and forth. And we also have a little bit of woods on the property, and my partner and I have just been doing a lot of work getting that ready for guests to spend time out there. And so now I've got a woods trail, and I've got some clearings in the woods, and I was out there playing my singing bowls for my coaching group last night, and it was so peaceful and so beautiful. And eventually I want to fence that in too, so the horses can have free reign through the woods when we're out there.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
I know, I can't wait.
I love it. I love it. How many horses do you have?
There are 2 horses here right now, which
Okay.
maybe eventually, if I get more space fenced in, there might be 3, but right now there's 2, and for the foreseeable future, there'll be 2.
Okay. What are their names and how old are they?
So there's Snickers and Legata. Snickers is about, I think he turned 14 this year. He's a thoroughbred.
Nice.
And yeah, and Legata is, I think she turned about 23 this year. And yeah, you wouldn't know it looking at her.
Wow.
And she is a quarter horse Andalusian cross.
Nice. Yes, I've
And
worked with them both. I remember
you
now.
have, yeah, you know them both. And
Yeah.
then I've been doing this work with them for a lot of years now, 10, maybe
Oof.
13 years now. So they're very familiar with how this goes.
Okay. All right. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. And then I do remember we did some sessions where, in going back to the divination, is that how you say it? Divination tools. You use some cards. So one of my big things when we talk about healing, we always talk about healing in the past tense, right? We've got to heal wounds that we've had or what have you. But I believe healing comes with also preparation for the future, right? Not allowing this to happen again, or making sure that I'm prepared or have some things in mind as life starts to unfold, right? It's just better preparation, hopefully, for life in general, which is all part of what growing up is about, right? So I think your healing and your wellness runs in that sense too, right? It's kind of more future based, right? Moving forward as opposed to really looking back. How would you agree, or what would you say there as far as that goes?
Um, I would say it's some of both. I do personal coaching and divination as opposed to coaching as opposed to therapy, like talk therapy. Coaching does tend to be a little bit more present and future focused, whereas therapy sometimes tends to be more past focused, like getting over past traumas and things. Um, I do my best to really, really stay in the present moment, and so some of that is some of times people are carrying their past around with them in the present moment, and in that way it will come into the session and we will work with it as it needs to be worked with.
Hmm.
And sometimes the present is in the session. The future is, sorry, the future is in the present with the client. So sometimes they have concerns about where they're going or what they want to do next, or something that's coming on the horizon, or something that they want to create in the future. So sometimes that's in the present moment with the client. So I would say we kind of straddle both of those, but um, the core of it and the power is really in the present moment.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like whichever from the past or the future is coming in right then and there is what we will play with.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right. Awesome. Awesome. Um, what else did I have? Oh, we were talking about your cards earlier too. Did
Mhm.
you bring some cards with you?
I do. I have a few behind me. You want me to
So
grab some?
yeah, grab a couple. People
Okay.
always like the artwork. What do they call these cards again? These are
So I have oracle cards. I have lots of decks of oracle cards. I should have counted them before I got on the call with you. I bet I have 8 or 10 decks now that I'm working with.
okay. All right.
And
And
lately, so I started off with a couple of decks. I'll actually show you one of my favorite ones. This is the Way of the Horse Oracle deck.
yeah, you've had that one for a while.
I've had this one a long time. It has some really. I'll show you a few cards. So this is funny because it's like my favorite one in there. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
it's
And
like
what
a horse-headed woman.
uh-huh.
I've worked with this deck a lot, so here's one that's a little easier to see.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a fairly complex deck, and you can do one card pulls, but it's really helpful if you do several cards, and it gets into a lot of layers of the reading. Um,
What's a typical reading look like for you? Like how do you usually set it up and how many cards are you pulling or
uh, so sometimes I'll do some free single card pulls on my Facebook page, and I'll just have people comment, and I'll pull a card for them and give them a picture and a little of the image, and then a picture of the little description that goes along with it.
okay.
When I do readings in person, sometimes I offer mini spreads, which are usually about 3 cards. And if I do a full spread, it's usually at least 5.
Okay.
And I will also offer those in the presence of the horses. So for a whole nother layer of richness, we'll go set up the table and chairs in with the horses, and they'll be around us. And again, as things come up, the horses will react and respond depending on the energy that's around. And I can observe them while I'm also doing the reading. And then it just adds so much more to everything.
Yes, I do remember it. I'm actually getting the chills right now because I remember when we did that. It was I can actually I'm taken back to that moment when we were sitting there and just how good it felt. The smell of being outside, the horse coming up over my shoulder, and both of us just all of us really kind of giggling, right?
Hmm.
It's there's like you said, all those senses come together, and I'm actually can feel it and bring it up right now just by talking about it, and it's a good feeling. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
glad you said that, because I think that's one of the things that's really unique about this kind of work, whether it's like the coaching or the divination, is it is the experience. And I have so many people tell me that they'll come out for a coaching session or something like that, and they'll tell me, I won't see them for a week or a month or 2 months or whatever. And the next time I see them, they'll say, "You don't know how many times I recalled standing next to the horse and how peaceful I felt, or how connected I felt, or just the joy that that gave me." And that they've been able to, in the tough times when they're not in the presence of the horse, they've been able to recall this sensory input they were getting in that moment, and it brings the same feeling to them even though they're not with a horse. So it brings back the same peace or the same comfort or the same connection. And I just think there's so much to that sensory experience. You really embody it. That's
yeah.
the thing about embodying something, is the memory is in your body, it's in your cells, it's not just in your brain and your thoughts, you know?
Yep. Yeah, that's totally amazing to think about. Yeah, because I just keep getting the chills about it right now.
Mhm.
That's super awesome. I love it. I love it. Um, what else do I have for you? How do people get a hold of you? I'm gonna see if this we're gonna see if I type this. How do people get a hold of you, or how do you like do people just call you and set up one session with you? What does contacting you look like?
Yeah, so people can contact me with my phone number is probably the quickest and easiest way, but also email or through my website, which is stephaniesawtelle.com.
Yeah.
Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. And then I just pick a time that works for both of us to set up a session. I also offer free meet and greets because I think that's a great way to come out and see if it's a good fit for you. You know, if you want
Oh,
to do any further work with me or the horses, you know, it's like I said, it's really hard to show up and dive right into something that you don't know what it is and you don't know what to expect. And I think that's a really low key way of just, you know, people pop out 15, 20 minutes, say hi to me, walk up to the fence, meet the horses, ask me any questions you want about how things might go in a session, or what questions can I answer to make you um, feel better about your decision whether or not to pursue this. You know, is it a good
okay.
fit? And so once we schedule something, you know, after the meet and greet, then we just schedule a time that works for both of us. And you know, they'll show up here and we'll get started usually with like a little check-in or a little mindfulness, maybe a body scan, which you're probably familiar with. And I help them set an intention for their session. And then once we do that, they are welcome to go in with the horses or not. I actually have a lot of people who have shown up to work with me who have a really strong pull to horses, but they also have a really strong fear.
Hmm.
And I think that's a fascinating combination to me. And I am so I'm so amazed every time someone shows up to do some work with the horses and they're also that scared. Like, I just think that pull had to have been so strong, you know? And I'm so, I don't know what the word is, but I'm so happy that they followed that pull because it's hard to do that when you're also scared. And I'm so thankful that they entrust that to me because we can actually do the whole session from outside the fence. You don't actually have to get in with the horses to have full benefit of the session. So there's a lot of options there. But anyway, so in the middle of the session, it's interactions with the horses, and that is totally different every time it happens. So I can't really tell you exactly what will happen.
Okay.
And I do a lot of watching and reflecting and intuiting. And that's how I facilitate the session. So the client and I will check in with each other as things progress based on what's happening for them or for me or for the horses. And things will unfold around their intention throughout the session. And at some point, it kind of comes full circle, or there's like a pause, and we wrap it up, and we do a little bit of a debrief before they leave. And sometimes there's a lot really rich right there. Sometimes there is some, and the person also takes away something that maybe isn't quite clear, but in the days that follow, all of a sudden, whatever block they had to it clears, and they see their little interaction in a different way, and they have another piece of their puzzle. Um, and it's fun for me to hear those little insights that they have after the fact as well. And I just leave it open for when they want to come back, when and if they want to come back. Usually people know when they're ready for another chunk, or when they feel the horse is calling them again and they want to come back. The horses can really get right to the point and unveil a lot of stuff for you in a short period of time. So it's sometimes there's a lot to process, and I don't ever tell anybody that they have to come back with any set frequency because everybody's different.
I love that. That's really,
Mhm.
really great to hear. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I do have a question here from somebody
Yeah.
who's watching.
Oh, okay.
I'd love to hear a story about a particularly favorite experience with the horses, with a group or an individual. Any story just pop out to you where you're just, you'd love to share?
Yes, actually, and I've used this example a lot. This is from quite a while ago, but it's a really telling example. So I had a woman come for a private session, and one of the horses that I had in my care at the time, this actually was I think it was maybe before Snickers. So it was Legata and another horse named Nino. You might remember Nino. Do you
I
remember him
think
from?
I think I do. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
So Nino had a stable vice called cribbing, which I'll briefly describe. It's a behavior some horses develop because of stress from the way that they're managed or stress from their life. And it's kind of like people biting their nails or something like that. You know, they'll put their teeth on a piece of wood or the fence or a hard surface and they'll make a noise. It almost sounds a little bit like a burp. So anyway, this is cribbing and it's a stable vice. So while I was caring for Nino in his semi-retirement years, when he came to my farm, he stopped cribbing after a lifetime of cribbing. So
Wow.
this being semi-retired and just the way he was being kept was very agreeable to him, helped him manage his stress, all of that. So he hadn't been cribbing for a very long time. So fast forward to this woman comes for her session and we do the initial check-in and things and we go into the space with Nino and within a couple seconds he starts cribbing and I'm like, I haven't seen him do this in months. And
Uh-huh.
so, I'm not saying anything. I'm just watching and he does it for a while and she's next to him and, she's petting him. And pretty soon she looks at me and she goes, what is he doing? And so I explained to her just exactly what I explained to you about what cribbing is because she had never seen that behavior before. And I'm talking, and as I'm talking, her eyes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And she goes, oh my God, I do something exactly like that at home when I'm stressed. Like she doesn't crib it. She had her own version that she related to of an unhealthy behavior that she did when she was stressed. And so she arrived to the session with that energy and the horse was reflecting back to her something that needed her attention.
Uh-huh.
And so it was a really great moment that I didn't have to do much. She really put together what she related that to.
Mhm.
And we did a little coaching around it and she was able to, in the session, she was able to access a different state of being. And it was really fun to watch because every time she accessed this different state, Nino would stop cribbing and he would go nibble on grass or he would just stand there quietly and she would pet him. And then, some minutes would go by and this is a very habitual pattern for her. So, a few minutes would go by and she would go into her, the stressful thoughts again in her mind. And within seconds of her doing that, he would walk over to the fence and start cribbing again. And I didn't have to do much of anything. Nino was just, every time she started to get into that, when you're in that habitually, you don't always notice it. But
Mhm.
he was showing her exactly the moments when she was going into that space in her mind, and exactly when she shifted that state of being, he would stop. And it was, and I didn't see her for a couple weeks after that, but I got this message from her and she said, you have no idea how powerful that was. She said, when I'm at home and I go into doing some pattern that I know is not going to get me anywhere, she said that experience of Nino cribbing on the fence right next to me pops into my mind. And she's like, I don't want to do this. And she said, I do something different. Like it was so powerful for her.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
isn't that a mirror, a reflection, right? You look in the mirror and you go, oh, right? Like that's wow, that is very, very powerful. So cool. So
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And the
love it.
horses are great because they're not judging you when they're with you. They're just responding, and I think it's a really great way to be able to gain some self-awareness without feeling judged or feeling right or wrong or anything. I mean, the horses are just cool with what's going on. They're
Right.
just there with you.
Oh, I love this. I
Mhm.
love it. Oh, Stephanie, I'm so glad we got together today. This was awesome.
Thank you. I'm so glad too. Thank you for asking me to be here.
Absolutely. And as we go along, I'll probably ask you back on because I always have more questions and you're always changing and evolving and doing awesome things too. So,
Thank you.
I think what I'll end up doing is all the contact information you gave me, I'm going to post on Facebook underneath here. I'll try to link people to your Facebook page and different things like that. Um, yeah, and let's definitely get together soon. I'll give you a call and I'll come out and check out your place. All right.
Yes, thank you. I'd love to see you.
Awesome. All right. I think that is it for today. Let's stay in touch, Stephanie, and all of you wonderful people who watched in today. Thank you so much. And we'll go
Yeah,
from
thank you,
there.
people.
Yeah. All right. See you, Stephanie. Have a great day.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
Bye.